10 News broadcasting from this location for 50 years, watching the parades come down 210 Government Street.
Highlights of Mardi Gras 1991. And now, the First Lady of Mardi Gras, Dot Moore.
Hello, everyone. Happy Mardi Gras 1991. Well, of course, you know the celebration is in full swing, and there's something for everyone. Now, if you didn't have the opportunity to come to the parades, any of them or all of them, not to worry, because we're going to show them to you during this hour. Inclement weather couldn't even stop the Conde Cavaliers to kick off the season with a patriotic theme, America Through Time. We're going to see the Liberty Bell, Daniel Boone, and all sorts of point-ups of American history as we go with our first parade of the season, America Through Time. This is the emblem float depicting a colorful version of Fort Conde from which this group derives its name. On the front is a cavalier dressed in blue, red, and gold astride his trusty mount and wielding his sword and mug. In the center we see a large blue fleur-de-lis and the city of Mobile crest with its 5 flags, while the back of the float is filled with a large replica of Fort Conde. All the riders on the emblem float are officers and members of the board, and they're dressed in black and gold cavalier costumes. Here comes the Joe Kane coal wagon. This is an authentic, restored coal wagon, and this unit is a permanent float. It's pulled by 2 live mules, and the wagon is lighted by torches. The riders, well, they're all dressed as Indians, and there's old Joe himself. The first of the theme floats come into camera view now, depicting the Pilgrims landing at Plymouth Rock. There's an Indian figure on one side and a pilgrim on the other. The pilgrim is, of course, dressed in black and white, while the Indian's very colorful in orange, green, and yellow. The center of this unit shows a replica of the ship Mayflower, and all of the riders are dressed as pilgrims and Indians. Here we see a symbol of the early colonial days, with a large replica of the Liberty Bell. Behind the bell is the boat that George Washington used to ferry his men across the Potomac. And this unit is filled with a replica also of Independence Hall. And on the dome of the hall, you'll see a clock, and there it is with moving hands. All the riders are dressed as George Washington or as colonial soldiers. Well, when we think of the frontier days, Daniel Boone comes to mind, and there he is, chasing a bear. The front and center of this float is covered with a large brown bear who's running from his pursuer. And you'll notice the riders are all dressed as Boone in black and gold costumes as they throw trinkets to the folks along the curbing. This float depicts the cowboy in the Indian era, and on the front we see a large cowboy figure dressed in a plaid shirt and a silver hat. In the center, a covered wagon, while an Indian with full headdress is very colorful on the rest of the float. And here we see a unit that actually consists of 4 parts: the Cavalier Express engine, the coal car, the tank car, and the caboose. Now this is another permanent float, and the riders are all dressed as cavaliers in purple, green, white, and black. Here's a reminder of the Civil War. The attack on Fort Sumter is pointed up on the front of this float with a Union soldier in blue and a Confederate soldier in silver. Here's a replica of Fort Sumter under siege. And at the back of the float, there's an American flag on one side and a Confederate flag on the other, with black cannons completing the battle scene. Now we come to the industrialization of America, and this shows factories highlighted by a large yellow biplane. The gigantic factory of red brick and concrete has 2 black smokestacks, and we see gears and pulleys on either side. The riders are dressed as aviators and factory workers. Representing a time in history when gangsters, stills, and illegal alcohol came together. You can see here a large blue convertible which was used to carry the illegal brew. And on the large gold and silver still, you see Machine Gun Kelly is standing guard. Now this float depicts two sad periods in our country's history, World War I and World War II. Up front are two soldiers dressed in their fighting uniforms, and behind them we see a large green camouflage tank with the turret turning in circles. The tracer lights give the effect of gunfire and bomb shells. Remember the birth of rock and roll in the 50s? Well, here's the king himself, Elvis Presley, and he's dressed in white, silver, and blue. The maskers represent two popular characters of those years, Elvis Presley in blue and silver costumes, and Fonzie in the black jacket he helped make famous. Now, here was an exciting time in history. This float represents our entry into the space age. And at the front of the unit is an astronaut moving in slow motion, as if he's walking on the moon. And there's a large silver space shuttle, the United States Atlantis, which covers the rest of this unit. The sides depict the darkness of outer space with twinkling lights, giving the effect of stars. And America's precious freedoms are represented on this final float in our parade, and on the front it's filled with a large green and gold replica of the Statue of Liberty, her torch held high. And toward the back of this unit is an American eagle in gray, silver, and gold, backed by mountains. Well, the ladies took over the streets for their second parade of this season, the polka dots. Yes, with an invitation for you to come dance. They want you to dance through Mardi Gras. Now, we'll see a point-up of all dance forms in America, like the polka, right on through to tap dancing on Broadway, and finally, we'll wind up with some of the most elegant scenes from ballet. So, here's the polka dots asking you to come dance. Here's the emblem float with the three winged stallions, the sons of Pegasus, and they're pulling a chariot in which the Gypsy Queen of the Order of Polka Dots rides each year. Let's listen now to the Williamson High Band. This is the theme float with its invitation to come dance with the Order of Polka Dots. The float's a replica of a gypsy wagon. Here comes the Excelsior Band, a real favorite in Mobile. Harem dancers are coming into view now, and this is the first of the theme floats with a scene from Arabian Nights. These ladies are all harem dancers and a resident in the Sultan's palace. Jazz usually brings to mind New Orleans and, of course, the French Quarter. And there's a brick building in the quarter with musical instruments all about, and white tie and tails for the riders who toss treats to the people's street side. This float points up some of the flappers and gangsters of the Roaring Twenties. On the front, a gangster standing tall, and right behind him is a police station. A machine gun on the sides reminds us of the Roaring Twenties. Let's listen to the Marching Bobcats from Theodore. Remember the Texas two-step? The polka dots have revived it. This setting is a cantina in Texas, and there's the Lone Star State flag flying, and of course you can't have Texas without cactus, and there they are. The second half of the parade begins with a float that reminds us of life in the Great Smoky Mountains. There's a little brown jug and a no trespassing sign to ensure a life of privacy. Corncob pipes and straw hats are part of the masker's attire. Now look, the Mexican hat dance, and this one is set in a large marketplace. Many sombreros and flowers to keep the scene colorful. Here comes the Warriors of Davidson High. Let's listen. Next up, the ballet. Here's a scene from the popular Swan Lake. A graceful swan glides along cattails and water lilies. The Order of Polka Dots might be saying here, come tap dance with me. Of course, tap dancing has always been closely associated with Broadway productions, and that's where this unit is leading us. With many tall buildings, nestled among them is a theater with a colorful and flashing marquee. In contrast to the Swan Lake float, loud and colorful, the fabulous 50s, a large multicolored jukebox, and a 57 Chevy, the ever-popular root beer float of those days, is part of this scene, as is a guitar. Lawrence Welk helped make this dance form popular, and here we see the polka as part of the Oktoberfest celebration. There's a beer stein on the front of this unit, and the remainder of the float shows us a setting resting in the mountains, complete with a chalet. Now, the Order of Inca burst onto the streets with a very intriguing and exciting theme, the Bermuda Triangle, because, of course, this is something that's intrigued us all for many, many years. And they'll show you an octopus, a shark with his gleaming white teeth, even some marsh rats that have shrill shrieks in the night, and all sorts of exciting, mysterious fish, exotic fish, large fish, and small, all in the Bermuda Triangle. The emblem float of the Order of Incas features a sunburst rising from clouds. Inca himself is riding atop an extended beam at the front. An Inca head done in relief is on either side of the center of the sunburst, and 4 spotted jaguars occupy the corners. Here's the Davidson High School Band. Coming into view now is the tidal float of the order, with its massive temple of stonework surrounded by Inca temple guards, and bearing the theme, the Bermuda Triangle. Let's listen to the Viga Wolves Marching Band. Now here we see one of the problems planes may encounter in the triangle, a sinister sky that speaks of trouble. On the front, a biplane is in distress, and we see lightning bolts striking from the sky in a threatening situation all around. From Atlanta, here's the Walter F. George High School Band. Two mysterious elements come to life here, witches and whirlpools, with the head of a witch with outstretched hands. Right up on the front and at the back of the unit, we see a sailing ship as it struggles. And there's a wave of water encircling this entire float, and on the aprons we see life, rings, and cargo. And now the Williamson High School Band. Here are the mysterious creatures that live beneath the waters of the sea. They are well represented with sea snakes slithering and swimming the entire length of this float, in, on, and between the cresting waves, and things get pretty slimy here as the maskers, all dressed as snakes, throw candy and trinkets to the crowds along the way. Sailing into view now are the prowling pirates of the sea on their pirate ship. On the bow, there's a parrot, and a skull and crossbones are always associated with pirates who roam and rob on the high seas. The maskers are all dressed as mates on the pirate ship. Well, after all those pirates, we are happy to see a more tranquil atmosphere connected with the sea, and this unit shows us the beauty of coral caverns. On the front, a large multicolored fish emerges from the coral, and beautiful colors on this float, and the maskers are cavorting about the coral caverns and all dressed as fish. This is the Alba High School Band. With this float, we're going back to the creatures beneath the sea, and one of the most dreaded residents of the water, the savage shark. And there he is, with his great white teeth showing us just how ferocious he really is. And on the back, a school of fish watching the action of the savage shark from the safety of a patch of seagrass. Well, it seems there's no relief from fear, and the omnipotent octopus is the center of attention here, and he dominates this entire unit as his greatly feared tentacles extend out in all directions. He seems to be quietly watching to see where his next victim will come from, as his tentacles form an uneasy roof over all of the riders. Reef rodents are part of the lore of the mysterious sea. It's said that the shrill screech of the rodents can pierce the night. Here we see the leader of the rats looking out from an opening in the reef at the front, while large waves break over the reef at the rear. And now the Mary Montgomery Band. With this unit, we are reminded of creatures that live and lurk in the marshy areas. These are marsh monsters that take us to the murky lair of the most dreaded of the triangle dangers. Two large and hairy monsters loom out from the marsh amid cattails and grass. Dressed as monsters, the riders are making the watching crowds happy, throwing moon pies and goodies. This is the Macintosh Marching Band. Coming into view now, the final float brings a change of mood. This is an incredible island where white swans are seen swimming at the front, while lush palm trees and flowers cover the entire island. A scenic volcano is seen in the rear of the float, and the maskers add color and glamour with their costumes as island natives and exotic birds. A float of beautiful colors and a great way to end this parade. Now, the Maids of Mirth want to tell you a story about the goings-on in the garden plot. Amid beautiful blossoms, huge sunflowers, and all of the pretty things you could expect in a garden. However, there's a little trouble in the garden with Rudy, the rude rooster, and Sneaky the snail. They're all there as our story unfolds with the Maids of Mirth parade. Leading off tonight's parade is the Murphy High School Band. Up first is the emblem float that heads up a parade that will take place in a garden plot. With the emblem, we are reminded that the Maids of Mirth were formed in 1950. And here's the world-famous Excelsior Band. Let's listen now to the Macintosh Union High School Band. Our parade begins at the dawn of a beautiful day as beauty and harmony prevail in this gorgeous garden. The sunny sunflower is the center of attention here, and it looks as if all is well in the garden, that is, until Batty the bunny appears. And now the Viga High School Band. Now comes Stinky the Sneaky Snail with this float. It's rumored that he's probably going to add to the confusion in the Cabbage Patch. It seems that Stinky is plotting a takeover, and that is why we see Hooty the Owl quietly watching him. And here's the Williamson High School Marching Band. Coming into view is a fellow who is not too popular in the garden plot. This is Rudy the Rude Rooster. Now, the Maids of Mirth tell us that Rudy has a reputation as an intruder of the worst kind, and that his bad reputation precedes him wherever he goes. Rudy not only intrudes, but he's noisy and loud, and here we see him stirring up trouble in the pumpkin patch. The maskers are dancing about and throwing Mardi Gras treasures to the crowds on the street. Now, if you thought Rudy the Rooster was a true mask, this float may prove that you can be mistaken, because here comes a bird that has to be the king of awful. It's Bubba Buzzard himself, and here we see him and his fellow buzzards hovering overhead in the cornfield. Usually belligerent and contrary, according to the Maids of Mirth, Bubba is so noisy, even the corn in the field can't believe its ears. The Davidson Warriors Marching Band. After Rudy the Rooster and Bubba Buzzard, this next float finds the order to calm down a bit. There's a planned gala in the garden, as we see here, and it's almost time to begin. A beautiful setting for the Strawberry Festival and it promises to be a lively spectacular. The colors on this unit are truly beautiful. This is the Wilcox Central High School Band. Coming into view now, a continuation of the Strawberry Festival, only this one time the Grasshopper Band is the center of attention. The strawberries are swinging and swaying to the snappy tunes of the band, and heads nod and feet tap to the beat of the fantastic fiddles as the Grasshopper Band is surrounded by merry musical notes. This is the marching band from Baker High School. The maids of mirth point up the Blossom Ballet here in the garden setting. We see blooming blossoms in their petal costumes here as they trip the light fantastic. Here's the Utah High School Band. And here's the final float of the parade. This is Honey Hummingbird, who brightens things up in the scene as she's crowned queen of the festival amid the golden setting. And thus ends happily the giddy goings-on in the garden. Now the Pharaohs are the youngest parading organization, and they took to the streets on a Sunday afternoon with the parade steeped in gold and the mysticism of the desert, with Pharaoh himself riding on top of his beautiful chariot. They're going to show you the great Sphinx of Giza and even the tomb of King Tut, the boy king. 3 mini floats head up the parade in colors of gray, red, and yellow. Now each features a cobra looming over the riders, who are all officers of the order. The costumes are bright red and yellow with gold headpieces. Coming into view now is the high priest chariot, resplendent in his robes of the Nile. Now the high priest rides in this gold and red Roman chariot, pulled by a fierce lion with the face of a pharaoh. Now let's listen to the Mary Montgomery High School Marching Band. This is a traditional emblem, Pharaoh's Royal Barge Palace, and King Tut rides atop an ornate balcony at the front above a life mask of the young ruler. Egyptian fans sway to and fro, and His Majesty Pharaoh the Sixth and the Queen of the Nile are there surveying the scene. Now from Atlanta, Georgia, the Walter F. George High School Band. This float points up the dreaded cobra of the Nile. Egyptian fans up front and on each corner of the unit, huge cobras hiss and intertwine their slithery bodies amid the green vines enveloping green and purple base of the float. We'll be back with more highlights from the Pharaohs Parade after this. Pyramids on the banks of the Nile coming into view now, and on the front a large gondola sails over a sea of green, yellow, and blue, while the pyramids stand in their grand magnificence at the rear. And here comes the Blunt High School Marching Band. A large camel kneels in palm trees at the front of the unit as he is awaiting the rider, and spectators might feel that the sand's blowing off the desert as the camel rider stops at an oasis. An inviting large red and white tent dominates the rear of this float. Next up, the marching band from Williamson High School. Now this float brings forth a thrilling sight of Splendor of Tut, the boy king. And here we see the stark stone tomb of King Tut with Egyptian medallions on either side along the aprons of the float. Now, the Viga High School Marching Wolves. Here we see a large Egyptian guard up front. This unit invites the crowds on the street to behold the hieroglyphics and spheres. Red and yellow stripes dominate the float apron. Our final float points up Egypt's great Sphinx at Giza. And there's the imposing Sphinx on the front of the unit. A large temple of stone is shown in the center, while a white and blue mountain envelops the rear, with palm trees completing the desert scene. Now the Stripers picked up the second weekend of parades with a theme of biblical numerology. That is, counting all the numbers in the Bible that signify something important, like the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, the 10 commandments, and all of those things that we're familiar with that have numbers connected with them. And finishing off with the dark side, the mark of the beast, and we all know what those numbers are, 666. Mobile's own star, Richard Tyson, leads the parade, followed by the Murphy High School Marching Band. Here's the 40-foot emblem float to start the parade with a tiger and a lighted S-crest. This is one of 2 emblem units. Next up is the second emblem float featuring a zebra. And here's the Alba High School Band. Coming into view now, we see 5 Circus Maximus wagons drawn by Hill and Brooks horses. The riders are dressed as Roman gladiators. Pensacola's Maguire's bagpipes added a special touch. Now here is His Majesty King Striper and his lovely Queen Pauline. The Royal Knights dance as the court jester entertains the royal couple. This is the band from Mary Montgomery High School. Here's the title float of the order with a marquee that tells us Mystic Stripers present biblical numerology. Here's part 1 of the Viga High School Band. The first of the theme floats depicts the 7 days of creation. On the front is a half moon, while the earth is shown in the center of the unit and the sun appears at the back. Shooting stars cling to the clouds. And here's the rest of the Marching Wolves of Viga. Our next biblical number is 10, signifying perfection of divine order and the 10 Commandments. Moses dominates the front as he clasps the stone tablets in one hand, his staff in the other, and behind Moses we see Mount Sinai. The number 3 is up next, and that points up the 3 kings. Here we see Magi arriving at the stable in Bethlehem where the star has led them. The kings and their gifts to the Christ child are on display here. This is the LaFleur Rattler Band on parade. The 4 horsemen of the apocalypse roll into view now, displaying the plagues which followed creation that are said to be the harbingers of the end of time. The 4 horsemen are conquest, war, famine, and death. And here comes the Buff Marching Band. Next in our biblical numerology is once again the number 10, this time representing the 10 plagues of Egypt. A pharaoh is at the front, while temples rise among the sandy formations. Rain clouds hover over the scene as locusts, frogs, and snails plague the area. This is the Williamson High School Band. The number 12 represents the 12 tribes of Israel. Here Jacob is at the front of the float, and behind Jacob we see a temple at the back of the setting. Now you can see angels of the trumpet, and we see cherubs and clouds heralding coming events in the world. We're all familiar with the Bible's account of Noah's Ark and the animals entering 2 by 2. And here is a replica of the Ark and the great flood taking shape. The animals board the Ark and comfort themselves for getting out of the storm. Now here's a colorful float that represents 40 years in the desert, where we see the burning bush that's spoken of in the Bible, and at the center of the unit is the Ark of the Covenant. To complete the scene, a golden calf. The final float represents a fearful biblical number, 666, the mark of the beast. And here the 7-headed beast is seen. The head of a lion, the body of a jaguar, and the claws of a bear, and notice his fiery eyes. Now the crew of Columbus asks you a question with their theme. It goes like this: have you seen, and I hope you haven't seen some of these things, like a pink parrot, a yellow frog, a green cat, and many other imaginative creatures that the crew has dreamed up for us to think about. So let's see what else they have in mind. And as I say, have you seen? Leading tonight's parade is the LaFleur High School Marching Band. Here's the traditional emblem float with Columbus standing atop a revolving world. A half moon accents the front, and a sunburst lights up the back. The maskers are all dressed as Indians as they dance around the world. Here's the Alba High School Band. Sailing through the streets of Mobile, we see the first of Columbus's 3 ships. This is the Nina. And now comes the Pinta. One of the several visiting bands. Here's the band from Selma High School. And rounding out the 3 ships, this is the Santa Maria. From Union Springs, Alabama, here's the Bullock County High School Band. Coming into view is Isabella, better known as Izzy. She's a giant sea serpent and stretches the entire length of the float, 75 feet as a matter of fact. Now, Izzy's 2 baby sea serpents raise their heads from the waves as they sway and breathe fire and smoke. This is the Viga High School Marching Band. Indian heads decorate the front of this float. This is the theme float, which symbolizes a society along with Columbus and Mardi Gras. And here we see the traditional symbols of Mardi Gras: a crown, just a head, a winged dragon, holding a marquee announcing, "Have you ever seen?" With this float, the crew of Columbus is asking you, have you ever seen a green cat? If you have, was it accompanied by a pink elephant? This giant green cat wears a spiked collar and stands among trash cans and figures of rats all about. This is the marching band from Macintosh High. Next in view are giant spotted bugs with long legs and bulging eyes dominating the whole unit. The question here is, have you ever seen a blue bug? Well, the baby bugs are clinging to the backs of the larger creatures. To see an octopus in the sea in its natural color would be frightening enough, but have you ever seen a red octopus? You have now on this float where its 8 tentacles are wrapped around a vessel afloat in the sea. The riders aboard the submarine are amazed at the sight. And here's the band from Baker High School. Can you imagine a rainbow rabbit? Well, here we see multicolors cascading from a large can of paint on the front of this float as rabbits play about. Now, our rainbow rabbit has shiny eyes and a nose that twitches and big floppy ears. He usually lies on his back and holds a paintbrush in each of his paws. This is the Leopard Marching Band from Blunt High. Have you ever seen a purple dragon? Well, here's one with eyes that dart back and forth as its long tone extends to possibly catch a moon pie as it's thrown by one of the castle guards. Now, the huge dragon spans a moat and shows his sharp teeth. A medieval castle and several bare trees complete the scene. This is the B.C. Rain Marching Band. Have you ever seen a pink parrot? The crew of Columbus wants to know. The bird seems to be happy and secure amid this jungle setting with its swaying trees. And as in every jungle, giant snakes abound, while the chatter of the parrots adds to the mystique of this wild setting. From Thomaston, Alabama, here's the Amelia Johnson High School Marching Band. Can you just imagine an orange crocodile? Well, this unusual creature sits in a muddy riverbank deep in the heart of a foggy swamp. The crocodile shows sharp teeth and a mouth wide open, and its tail wraps around the back of the float. The maskers are all dressed as tribesmen, and they're busy with anticipation of their gator hunt. This is the Marengo County High School Band from Dixon Mills, Alabama. Can you believe a yellow frog with spots? Well, there it stands on a lily pad in a pond, complete with glowing eyes. The setting is a pretty one, with colorful flowers tucked in the grass where mushrooms grow. A beautiful rainbow lights up the scene. This is a colorful float, a beautiful way to end our parade. Stay with us because we'll have more of Parade Highlights 1991 right after these messages. The Mystics of Time want to tell you about those special times, but right up front, Bernadine, that 150-foot serpent, and her 2 offspring, Verna and Dean, were the usual crowd pleasers that they always are every year in our Mardi Gras parades. Now, we're going to see a point-up of special times, of course, like Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, and all of the days that are special to all of us that we like to celebrate. Not to ever forget Halloween, which winds us up with spooky goblins everywhere and cobwebs complete. So here we go, the Mystics of Time Special Times. Leading tonight's parade is the Lions Marching Band from Williamson High School. Here's the emblem float drawn by mules and featuring a clock where Father Time is in the center, surrounded by the maskers. Now, here's a real crowd pleaser every Mardi Gras. This is Bernadine, the 150-foot fire and smoke-breathing dragon. And shortly, we'll meet Bernadine's 2 offspring. Here comes a marching band from Marion Military Institute. The Queen of the Mystics of Time coming into view now on a throne guarded by swans. The leading lady is assisted by military escorts and pages. Now this is the first of the two offspring of the dragon, Vernadine, and here comes the second one. Their resemblance to their mother, Vernadine, is evident, and their names are Dean and Verna. From Central Alabama, here's the Thompson High School Band. Now we see the title float of this organization announcing its theme, Special Times of the Year. With this float, we go to the Orient to celebrate the New Year. In a very colorful setting, a dragon stretches the length of the float to celebrate the New Year. We see firecrackers popping all over. This is the McIntosh High School Band. Of course, we're all familiar with the fact that the groundhog sets the scene for the weather. There he is, right on the front, popping in and out, searching for his shadow. And the maskers add color as they scamper about and throw goodies to the crowd. This is the Marengo County High School Band. Now we come to one of the most romantic times of the year, Valentine's Day. There's Cupid, sitting right up front there, and there's a giant heart behind Cupid surrounded by bluebirds. And at the back, maskers dressed as Valentine messengers. This is the Selma High School Marching Band. Pointing up President's Day, we see likenesses of George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. And there's an eagle on the official seal of our country, a patriotic float, President's Day. From Camden, Alabama, this is the Wilcox Central High School Band. It's the wearing of the green for this special day, a time when we think of four-leaf clovers and leprechauns. Of course, it's St. Patrick's special time, and here we see the little green people as they wander about. Well, after the cold winter weather, this special day is a welcome change. It's Easter Bunny time. There's a big Easter egg right up front on this float, and we see also a rabbit looking back and forth at the contents of an enormous woven basket. And a little chick with a ribbon sits atop the basket. These are the Viga wolves. The 4th of July is that time when we celebrate this country's independence. It's a day of parades and fireworks, and this float is a colorful one as skyrockets shoot back and forth to light up the night. And there's Uncle Sam standing tall in his red, white, and blue. From Thomaston, Alabama, here's the Amelia Johnson High School Band. Coming into view now, the Mystics of Time point at the celebration of Labor Day. The scene is highlighted by a lumbering industrial machine with smokestacks and gears that make up the large factory. Here comes the Bullock County High School Band. It's spooky time. The big jack-o'-lantern on the front of this float tells us it's a day for spooks. It's Halloween. Here we see a haunted house full of spooks and spirits that go bump in the night. The maskers are all dressed as goblins, bats, and ghouls as they toss goodies to the crowd below. Here's the Jackson Olin Marching Band. When this special day is celebrated across the nation, we know Christmas can't be far behind. It's Thanksgiving Day. Pilgrims and Indians pay homage to the guest of honor. He's a big, fat turkey. The final float celebrates Christmas time, and here we see Santa Claus waving to the crowds from the chimney top. Elves are all among the presents that Santa has left behind, and toys are on either side as Santa rides away to end this parade. On Monday night, the infant mystics put us into the dream world with their theme, All in a Dream. Now, of course, they're good dreams and they're bad dreams. And they're sweet dreams, and you'll see all of these in their dream parade. One of the dreams even says, the Martians came right up to me. Another dream is about some sprightly people that go around in the night that you'd rather not meet. But the infant mystics want you to wake up happy. So they are going to let you wake up to a new day as they end that parade. And here it is. Leading the parade is the infant mystics emblem. It features the mysterious cat we see each year. On either side is a knight and the long-remembering elephant. Tonight's first band is the Williamson Lions Marching Band. Here's the title float and the theme, All in a Dream. It's elaborately displayed in silver leaf on both sides. This first theme float prepares us for the dreams that will follow. Here's a lovely maiden with a candle flickering at her side, and all over the unit, dreamlike creatures in bright nightcaps peep out. This is the pipe band from McGuire's Irish Pub in Pensacola. Here we see large gnome-like figures dancing around a bonfire. Now that sleep has come, they're free to make mischief. They don't seem at all intimidated by the leaping flames that light up the entire float. What a colorful float. This is the Jackson Olin Marching Band. A large magic genie fills the entire float as he emerges from the magic lantern. And the maskers are all dressed as genies with satin costumes and large gold turbans. Here's the Otagoville High School Band. Now we see an enormous serpent. The snake slowly uncoils as if he is going to strike the parade watchers at curbside. This is the marching band from McIntosh High School. Following the dream about the snake, here we have a happy dream. On the front of the float, there's a large green seahorse. An enormous wave is breaking over the back, revealing bright tropical fish and seashells in its wake. Here's the Central High School Marching Band. Well, now here's a space-age dream. With a large green and yellow creature, its claw-like hands reaching out as its head moves from side to side. And the maskers are all in creature costumes as they throw goodies to the crowds in the streets. And now the Calhoun High School Marching Band. If you love sweets, this float is for you. If it's only a dream, you can eat as many as you want to. A bridge made of jelly beans with candy cane railings leads right up on the front of the float to a gingerbread house with lollipop posts on the rear. Here comes the D.C. Wolf High School Marching Band. Well, after eating all those sweets, one might have a dark and stormy dream like this one. The black night looms down the center of this float, and we see large, jagged streaks of lightning playing around the clouds. Did you ever dream that you were captured by Vikings? Well, if you should, perhaps this is the way it would be. This entire unit consists of an elaborate Viking ship with its carved head extending high on the front to form the bow. Flying in a dream, of course, is pure fantasy, but here are two beautiful tropical birds, and we see a lovely young maiden perched high on the back of a bluebird. Well, the final float in our parade tells us that all dreams end and we wake up to a new day. And here we see the moon and a beautiful orange sun rising. The maskers are all dressed as the rising sun in gold and orange costumes. Well, after all of those marvelous parades that we've all enjoyed together, of course, there's plenty going on. This is Fat Tuesday, and activities are going on all along the day and into the night with the OOM parade. And on location and waiting to bring you all of that color is Bob Grip and Nancy Pierce, and they will be with you with the color of Fat Tuesday right after these messages.